Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And today I'm going to be looking ahead to Bellator 282 as Gegard Mousasi again defends his middleweight title, this time against Johnny Eblen over in the Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut, USA, which has become a bit of a home for Bellator. Even prior to the pandemic, but especially obviously during the pandemic, they had lots of fights there. They're kind of basically based out of there now, and I know Scott Coker calls home to San Jose and Dublin as well at times. As I asked him the last time, he was over in Dublin, but back to the Mohegan Sun, and it's back for the first time in a good while for Bellator mixed martial arts. I saw Ariel actually tweeting about it the other day, and I think he made a good point that Bellator are kind of doing these monthly shows now, and that's a good way to go at it. And I would tend to agree with him on that. You know, we've complained, you know, you basically don't have time to look forward to a UFC show now that there's so many shows, and maybe you get to like Thursday, Friday, and then you start to look forward to it or something like that once you've kind of forgot about we were talking about Valentina Shevchenko last week and the light heavyweight title fight, and by the time the weekend the PFL fights last week come around, or the whatever UFC fight night was on, and the whatever night, it's kind of, we haven't had time to breathe. But for Bellator, there's all that all still exists because we still have all the UFC. But at least for Bellator themselves, it's not like, we UFC Bellator. We might have UFC, but then UFC Bellator. That actually makes Bellator a better prospect for me anyway, and I'd say for a lot of people too, that too much of a good thing can be too much too. But I like this, and the fact that Bellator have another card, I think it's towards the end of July, if I'm not mistaken. It was actually only announced maybe yesterday or the day before, I think, officially, or a few of the fights were announced anyway, and then they're over to Dublin. Actually, did they have one card before that? They might even have two cards. It's Bellator 285, I think, in Dublin, so they might have a couple of cards, but that's in September anyway, so we've another 3 months away. So yeah, that kind of makes sense as well with the one card a month. So I like that, and I hope Bellator keep doing that, and I hope they keep making their cards special, as Ariel said as well, making their cards strong. Like, I was talking about it on the podcast the other day, and I'll be talking about it as obviously it comes up to the card and interviewing people as well, but it's not hard to make the to have the discussion or to make the argument that this upcoming card in Dublin is the best card that's ever been put on in Dublin, like almost UFC Dublin back in the day included, the one with McGregor and all, before McGregor became a champion, because this card is really good. It's really, really good. A top level card with Vincent Henderson in the main event against Peter Queally, and then we have Yoel Romero on the card against Melvin Manhoff, and Leah McCourt's on the card in the top level fight. Loads of great fights, and I'm really, really looking forward. But that is for another day. Today we're talking about Bellator 282, and I'm going to break down maybe 5 or 6 of the top fights here. There's some really, really good fights on this card, and I'm looking forward to it. As always with Bellator, you have a lot of the kind of the good up-and-comers on the undercards here, and you have a few of them here. I suppose Cody Law would be the standout one. He has been very impressive in his last couple. He's fighting James Gonzalez here. Lucas Brennan, who's also 6-0, the same as Cody Law. He's fighting Johnny Soto, who's 4-0. And you've Richard Palencia, who's 10-0, fighting Marcus Breno, who is 14-2. And this is the first fight for Palencia in Bellator. He was the LFA champion. He was 10-0 over in LFA anyway, fighting around there, and took obviously a few years off during the pandemic and all that, came back and won these 2 fights, and they'll be looking, he could be one of the next guys coming through, fighting out of the MMA lab. I just mentioned Vincent Henderson, and a lot of their guys have done good stuff in Bellator over the last while, so I look forward to seeing him fight. Bryce Logan against Mandel Nallo as well. I've seen Nallo fight a few times in Bellator and have been, impressed with him. He has a lot of finishes. All 8 of his wins have come inside the distance. He fought Nick Brown last time out, which is kind of a prospect versus prospect fight, and I suppose this one will be the same against Bryce Logan, 32 years of age now, and he lost his last couple after coming over from LFA against Georgia Carcanyon and Mike Hamill. He's fighting that level of competition. I suppose he's going to be a good fighter, and he's even if he loses those 2 fights, he's still, that is the sort of level he's on. So that's a big fight for him to win it, as it is for his opponent. Did I mention Dan Moret and Killys Mota? Dan Moret, another guy who I think he was ranked even at one stage in that lightweight division. Alejandra Lara against Ilara Joanne, who is the Arya Stark character. That should be fun. Sabah Homasi, been around for a long time, against Mendonca. And then we get towards the top of the card. And I'm not sure, actually, I don't know if the card exactly how it's laid out yet. But it's going to be a lot of cards here. Bellator usually do 4 fight main cards on there, or maybe 5 fight. There's a lot of fights here that really could be on the main card, and I really like a lot of these fights here. I suppose first one, Anatoly Tokov against Muhammad Abdullah. Tokov, been around for a good while now. Abdullah, 36 years of age, 10-5 in his career. Coming out of I think he's fighting out of Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, or am I gone mad? No, maybe not. He had a few fights in Sweden. Maybe that was it. He's fought Sabah Homasi and lost to him before in outside of Bellator, but this is his first fight coming into Bellator, and it's a tough one. I think I'm pretty sure that he was supposed to fight someone else here, Anatoly Tokov, and that fight ended up falling through, and this is what's happening. But Tokov is on a great run here now. He's won 6 in a row, all in since signing for Bellator after losing to Ramzan Amaev in M1, and we know how good he is. Even though he didn't win against Jack Della Maddalena last week, but he's a very, very good fighter. And Tokov went on a massive run before that as well, with some good names on his ledger as well. And at that weight class in Bellator, I think he's going to be running through a lot of lads there, and he's going to be getting right to the top very, very soon. And I suppose a lot of people may remember him for that Mad Fedor card back in the day, where that completely biased, or unbiased, should I say, commentator was just saying, Anatoly Tokov. But he's a very good fighter. I've analysed him a few times in these previews, and a couple of these fights have actually fallen out, I think. But however, he is, I would say, very strong, very tough, hits very hard. 23 of his 30 wins have finished inside the distance, 7 of them submissions, 16 of them KOs. And he is just a straight up boxer who will punch the face off you. If the fight goes to the ground, if you go to the ground, he'll come down on top of you and he'll rain down big shots, and he'll try to get you out of there. He's a fighter I always like to watch, to be honest, and I always enjoy watching, and this should be another enjoyable one out of him here. Zingano against Pam Sorenson, then it's a very interesting fight for Zingano, right? Because just looking at her here, she's 39 years of age now. She fought against Olivia Parker in her last fight. She won by a armbar. And she fought Gabrielle Holloway before that back in 2020. So it's over a year again since Kat has been out of the cage, and it just feels like, I'm not sure the reason. I'm sure. I just said I'm not sure, and then I said I'm sure. But was it an injury or probably something like that? Was she waiting for Cyborg? I don't know. But her last opponent wasn't the best fighter in the world. She finished her a bit quickly. Like, I think if you were, a meritocracy sort of person when talking about your MMA and talking about who should get the next title shot, you would like to have seen Kat fight a Pam Sorenson, and we're getting that, but maybe Elia McCourt, maybe Sinead Kavanagh or someone like that to get herself towards the title. And that's what we have here, but it feels like it's been a bit of a long time coming. And so long, in fact, that maybe they would have been better off just not doing it at all. But here we are, and they are doing it, and she is fighting Pam Sorenson this weekend. Pam obviously lost to Arlene Blinkow last time out, but she had a couple of good wins before that, including one over Caitlin Young, who looked very good in her fight with Julia Budd over in PFL there not too long ago. So that's a pretty good win. She's beaten Jan Finney as well, beaten Jessica Rose Clark. I actually watched that fight today, the Jessica Rose Clark fight, just to kind of get a look at Pam Sorenson again. And look, what I would say is, right, I think if Zingano is at her very best, and the Kat we know back in the day who, took Amanda Nunes all the way and beat her, and is a very good athlete, strong, very good on the ground, good submissions, very flexible and all of that, and I think she beats Pam Sorenson all day, to be honest. Pam is not as good an athlete, I don't think. Very tough, very hard-nosed. You know, she's only been finished once in her career. It's only 13 fights, but still in all, she's only been finished once. I just don't know if Kat it's still at that point in her career. You know, is Kat Zingano still the person who was able to go in there against Amanda Nunes and give her hell? Probably not, let's be honest. And that's probably an unfair question to ask of anyone at 36 years of age, or at 39 years of age, when they've had the career like Kat Zingano has had, and the injuries and everything like that. But I asked that question because what happens if she wins this fight? Well, what happens if she wins this fight is she fights Chris Cyborg. So I think it's a fair question to ask. You know, and going into this fight and fighting Pam Sorenson, it just feels like it's a necessary fight, but also one that might go very badly for Bellator in general, because I think Bellator would love to have Kat Zingano in a title fight against Chris Cyborg, and that's not a negative of Bellator. They should be promoting their fighters. They should want the big name fighters in the big fights. I'm definitely not criticizing them for that whatsoever, but still, you know, me and my my non-meritocracy loving kind of like, just push this person into a title fight. I probably would have just stuck her straight in there with Chris Cyborg and let the cards fall how it may. Now, the cards mightn't fall how it may very well, but there we go anyway. Look, I'll say it again, breaking down this fight and looking at this fight, if Zingano comes in there, goes forward, has a bit of her power left, even can throw in a few takedowns, get the fight to the ground, I think she'll win it. I think she'll beat Pam Sorenson, and I do think she'll win it. That's how I think. That's how I do think it will go. But I'm not sure if she's still at that point of her career. I'm not sure if she is what she is, or is what she was. I know what Pam Sorenson is. I know she's as good as she is, as good as she'll ever be. You know, as I said again, a tough fighter who goes forward, a good clinch and all of that. And if you're not at a certain level, she will beat you. You know, she absolutely will beat you. So if Kat Zingano, that's the key here. If Kat Zingano's not at that level on Friday, Saturday night, whatever it is, she will get beaten. And it's an interesting one to watch out for. Next in on the card, we have Brent Primus against Alexander Shabli. I always say it whenever I talk about Shabli in these previews, that if you've beaten Alfie Davis, you're a good fighter. And he did beat Alfie Davis. He beat Bobby King in a unanimous decision in his last fight out. And those are his 2 Bellator wins, and 2 very, very strong wins. You know, he has 10 knockouts and 7 submissions in his career. But he's gone in there against Primus now, who, you know, just pulling up his record, but he seems to be fighting a little more regularly. But having said that, it's October last year since he last fought, so it's 8 months, but still in all, that's a little bit better than he usually fights. And he beat Vincent Henderson in that fight, and a lot of people thought maybe he would get a title shot coming out of that, but no, he's fighting Shabli here. Maybe if he beats Shabli, he'll get it. We have, as I said again, the big Vincent Henderson Peter Queally fight. It'd be hard to deny Queally a title fight, I think, again, after that, considering he's 1-1 with the champion, although the champion has another fight coming up pretty soon. But if Patricky holds on to that title, Peter Queally's 1-1 with him, has just beaten Vincent Henderson. That fight kind of, especially with the push they're giving in Ireland, let's be honest with that, that's a fight that I think they will make. And if Vincent Henderson wins that fight, they're just after re-signing him. I'm sure he wasn't on the cheap. And they wouldn't mind having Vincent Henderson as champion, I don't think. And him versus Patricky is a pretty good matchup. So, but you know, ifs and buts are very easy to say. If Shabli goes in there, if Primus goes in there and wins this fight, well, they could be next in line. They could be, you know, they could be that next guy. It's an interesting matchup with Brent Primus. I always go back and I watch his fights. He's 37 years of age now as well, though, and he's a very different fighter than most fighters. You know, he is a guy who will, you know, does he have a go-go bladder win? He does have a go-go bladder win, doesn't he? Yeah, against Tim Wilde back in Bellator Birmingham in 2019. His wins via neck cranked Chris Bungard. You know, we all know about the Michael Chandler leg injuries that was inflicted by him. Victory there. he can kind of do it all and do it in very different ways, and he throws himself down and he to get submissions, and he'll pull guard and he'll do every sort of thing to make it tough. Whereas on the other side of it, I think Shabley is more of like a straight up fighter. Now, he not necessarily just like he can do it all. He can throw a few wild kicks and punches, and obviously a very good wrestler and things as well. But some fighters, when they spend their whole career being a good fundamental fighter, they're thrown in there against someone. Look at the lads behind me here, MVP and others. They're thrown in there against fighters like that, and it kind of takes them out of their game. They don't know what they're doing. They can't get their straight up game going because the person isn't straight up in front of them. And Primus is a little bit like that. He's not going to be where you expect him to be at times. And maybe he doesn't come off as that sort of fighter because he's like the hard-nosed American maybe or something like that. But he is that sort of fighter. No, he's not going around throwing wheel kicks like MVP, although he does a bit of that the odd time. But yeah, he is an odd fighter, but a fighter I really like watching. And do you know what? He beats more good guys than he loses to. So, I think Shabley's a fantastic fighter. We'll see how this one goes here. Next on the card, Brennan Ward is back again. He's fighting Cassius Kane here, 35-year-old, coming in to make his Bellator debut here. He's fought around. He's fought for the last 9 years or so, and some of the guys in the local scene he's fought, but he's good wins as well over a few guys. He's beaten Maki Patolo, who fought in that Eagle FC card a while ago and was very impressive. As I said, his first fight in Bellator, but he has fought in LFA and other places as well. Lost his last 3 fights in LFA, but beat Jordan Larson before that and has another couple of wins there as well. As I said, that Maki Patolo victory, knocked him out in 5 seconds of the second round after losing to him in the fight before that. But Brennan Ward, we all saw him coming back in his last fight, and he looked phenomenal. He looked strong. He looked muscular. And I might be a bit biased here because Irish Brennan Ward, but no, he looked very, very good against Brandon Bell, who was obviously very much overmatched. I wouldn't say Cassius Kane is necessarily as overmatched as Bell was, but it's not. You're not sticking Brendan Ward in there against one of the best. I'm just looking at what weight class this is. I'll check now for sure in a second. But I know he's fought up at 185, but this is our welterweight. So you're not sticking him in there, against an MVP or a Jason Jackson or anything like that. You're giving him, the next fight to get him to where he needs to be on his rise, kind of back to where he once was, and that's good to me. And I think. I think even if he never gets there, or even if he doesn't want to get there, maybe I think Bellator are happy to have Brennan Ward on their cards, and they're happy to push him, and they're happy to have him as kind of a special guy, because I think he is. He's my guy Nolan King over at MMA Junkie wrote a great article about him, about his troubles outside of the cage and different things like that, and his retirement, and he's obviously #MMA retirements. He came back. And we talked about the last win, but Bellator are good at promoting those guys, They're good at, as well, I'll put it to you this way. I saw a tweet earlier on, and someone was talking about Yuri Pahachka. Maybe he was on, I don't know, was he on, did an interview or something, but he said, I would love to fight whoever in the Czech Republic, right? Go back to my home country and fight in the Czech Republic. The UFC aren't going to do that in 100 years. It's something, look, they did it with McGregor, they did it with, in Cleveland with Stipe. Where else have they done it? No, okay, the pandemic has stopped them doing it over the last couple of years, but they were really bad at doing things like that. Like really, really bad at doing things like that. Whereas Bellator will have James Gallagher in Dublin. They will have Peter Queally headlining cards there, Kiefer Crosby before, and all the the Bellator Dublin guys, and they will put on. I think he's in Brennan local to the Mohegan Sun and all over there. They will have those sort of guys, and back in the day, even when they were going different places, they had the local guys on the card, and I think that's great for as someone who's been to loads of Bellator shows now at this stage, it's great for the in-arena people. And we have to think of them as well as us sitting there watching at home. I'm sure there's someone in this card who I just kind of mentioned their name and kind of flipped over. Whereas there's probably people, maybe not so much in the Mohegan Sun because that's kind of their base. But if it was in let's say they had it in Birmingham in England, or they had it in Cleveland or wherever, they would have a local guy from Cleveland, or in Hawaii, they had lots of local people there, and they do a great job of that. And I think Brennan Ward can be that, but also can be the kind of the Bellator guy who people like, and the guy who's been around for a long time as well. So I like the way the Bellator do that, and they're doing that very, very well. Right, the top 3 fights, and these are all absolute bangers. And now maybe not necessarily striking bangers or anything like that, but bangers in terms of matchups, and I love them. Let me talk about Higo versus Sabatello first. Obviously, Danny Sabatello 12-1 now. I think for a lot of people, he kind of broke onto the scene after beating Jordan Lugo last time and started fucking him blinding. But, you know, Brett Johns, obviously from this side of the world, I watched him obviously fight that fight. I went back and watched, I think it was the one fight in Titan FC. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a different fight. But anyway, he's kind of always been the same sort of fighter. He'll pick you up, he'll take you down, and he'll burst your head on the ground. You know, fighting out of American top team, he's really, really good at that. Just really good at that, and he takes no prisoners, and he asks no questions, and he's just that, I mentioned hard-nosed American wrestler. That's exactly what you're getting with Danny Sabatello. That's exactly what he is, wearing these sunglasses, probably watching the Jersey Shore, listening to Paulie D, spinning a few records and stuff, that's what Danny Sabatello is. Leandro Higo on the other side of it then, he's a guy I find a little bit harder to gauge. He has had some brilliant wins over the last while. Beat Darian Caldwell, beat Ricky Bandejas. I watched that fight earlier on today, beat Sean Bunch. Okay, he lost to Caldwell before that in Pico, but he's some very good wins, beating Stephen Peterson and Tarian Ware and others back in the day. Obviously, we know him on the ground. He's brilliant. 12 submission wins. The second he got Bandejas to the ground, it was all over, and he's brilliant there. Fighting out of the Pitbull brothers now, and they were talking about that in the commentary in that Bandejas fight I was watching. And you know what? He kind of, I think it was Josh Thompson said he looks like one of the Pitbull brothers in the way he approached it, and that he's kind of waiting, and boom. And for him, it's usually maybe not a big shot, but usually a takedown, or usually getting into someone else's area where he can kind of maybe not necessarily take them down, but put them in an area where he can pull guard or trip them or do whatever he needs to do. And do you know what? I love fighters like that. I really love those smart, intelligent fighters who wait and play their game and can get a person in, or an opponent even, in a position where they don't want to be, very, very slyly. And I mean that as an absolute compliment. And Higo is one of those people. He absolutely is. But you can't do anything sly against Sabatello, because he'll be right in your face. There'll be no setting up here. There'll be no keeping Sabatello at the end of a jab or waiting for him to do something. He will be coming forward and he'll be doing something all night and all fucking day. And that makes this a very intriguing fight, because can he go turn him around on the ground and, get on his back and get a submission, or can he get something from the bottom, or will it just be Sabatello taking him down on top and destroying him there? I don't know. I don't know, and that's why I'm wanting you in to watch this fight, and it's a very, very intriguing fight for me. On the feet, I think Higo can do good things, but he's very safe, and as I said again, I don't think fighting Sabatello is a safe thing to do, to be honest. So I think he'll be looking for big shots when Sabatello comes in, looking to get on top, looking to kind of push that head down, and push Sabatello to the ground and get on top of him, or take his back or something like that. But a very interesting fight. Obviously, the bantamweight tournament going on now as well, and this is Sabatello had to break his way into it, but now he's in it, and here we go against Higo. Another bantamweight tournament fight, Magomedov, it is, isn't it? I'm not mistaken. Against Enrique Barzola, and my God, Enrique Barzola might be my favourite fighter in Bellator, I think. I love his style. He is a truly brilliant fighter, 18-5-2. He has 9 decision wins, but God almighty, I guarantee you all those 9 decisions are ones you'd want to watch. He beat Nikita Mikhailov in his last fight, who beat Brian Moore before that, who's a very good fighter. His only losses over the last while are to Kevin Aguilar and Movsar Ivalev, who's one of the top prospects in all of the UFC. He beaten Darian Caldwell in his first fight over in Bellator. He beaten Chris Avila, Gabriel Benitez, and a few more as well. I just love I love his style. He's a come forward, very hard to take down, lands a lot of shots. Once he gets you to the ground, he can submit you or he can get on top of you, lands lots of shots on the ground as well. This man throws, he's as much volume as a tank, it's just non-stop. And then Magomedov, you could probably guess by the name, he's a wrestler. And he is the guy, who, as we all probably know at this stage, who beat Peter Yan. And he was the only guy at one stage to beat Yan. But obviously, Aljamain Sterling has done that twice now, if I'm not mistaken. Yan beat him as well, so I'm not saying that. But he lost his last fight to Rafian Stotts, who is a fantastic wrestler as well, but a well-rounded fighter and can fight, well-rounded. He can fight on the feet and he can strike and do it all. And he beat him in the wrestling department. He beat him to the wrestling department and he won that fight. And I don't think necessarily that Barzola will be able to do the same thing. I actually do think he will stop some takedowns. I think he has very good takedown defense, and I think he's going to make it very tough for him on the feet. But Magomedov is one of those guys who never gives up on the takedown. And anyone who listens to any of my podcasts know I love a fighter like that. So I love a fighter like Magomedov, and I've just said Barzola is one of my favorite fighters. This is going to be an unmerciful battle. Like, it's going to be a battle for the takedown. It's going to be a battle to stop the takedown. It's going to be a battle for Barzola to land enough damage that he's winning rounds, that even if Magomedov gets a takedown and gets on top of him, his top control shite won't be enough to win the fight, He will need to throw elbows. He will need to turn submission attempts. He will need to do stuff with that top control to win a round. A magnificent fight, a great fight, and I really, really cannot wait for it. And these two bantamweight fights are very good. And in the main event, Gegard Mousasi yet again fighting and defending his middleweight title. It feels like Gegard Mousasi is fighting every couple of weeks, but he fought back in February, the fight I was at against Austin Vanderford, fought in back in August of 2021 against John Salter, and there was a bit of a break then back to October 2020 when he fought Douglas Lima, but from August last year up until now, that's what August, September, October, November, December, 10 months, three title defenses in 10 months. In modern MMA, that's an awful lot. Now, maybe before, putting your title on the line every 3 months wouldn't be a big thing, but now it is, and what is he, about 4 months out now? And it's great to see him doing it, at 36 years of age. He's gone for his 50th win here, so that's a big thing as well. And he's doing it against Johnny Eblen, who's never faced defeat, 30 years of age, 11-0, 1 submission, 5 KOs, 5 decisions. And he's an interesting fighter because I think he's very similar to Austin Vanderford, who unfortunately got injured, I'm pretty sure, at the very start. I think he got a stinger or something at the very start of that fight, and it was unfortunate. So I don't think there's actually too much you can read into that fight and no, I'm not taking anything away from Mousasi, but in terms of how you would read into this fight, I think, and actually I haven't watched back the Salter fight. I saw it when it happened back in March, but I watched so many fights now I can't remember, and Bellator amazingly don't have that fight up. Maybe by the time this comes out they will, but I went back and I watched the Davis fight. I went back and watched the Hook Body fight, and what I see is a very good wrestler. And I actually watched the fight from, when was it, a few years ago. It was when he went 6-0, whatever fight that was. And his striking then, even there wasn't much of it because he got 15 minutes of takedowns. His striking then, compared to his striking in the Colin Hook Body fight, which he ended in 1 minute and 11 seconds, is day and night. It really is day and night. So he is not just a guy. And now if you look at some of his older fights, he's a guy who literally is just to pick you up, take you down, right out on top, and, win probably a decision. Because he's so grapple heavy and he's so control heavy that it's almost impossible for his opponent to land any damage. And he goes for the takedowns very quickly as well. So he has improved his striking, and that's something he's going to need against Mousasi. Mousasi is very good takedown defense, obviously very good striking himself, very good wrestling himself as well. But he has been trying to land bigger, harder, more concussive blows in his last few fights, and it's worked pretty well for him. And I think that will be probably his key again here against Eblen. I think he'll stop the takedown, or try to stop the takedown, and land some big shots. And Eblen, what will he be trying to do? He'll be trying to get the takedown. I would favour Mousasi in a big way, but I believe in Eblen's ability as well. He really has some very, very good ability, and he beat John Salter last time out, as I said. That video hopefully will be up by the time maybe this comes out, or just after it. But, you know, probably a bigger test on paper and in analysis for Mousasi than it is, well, better in analysis than it is on paper, let's put it that way. Because, okay, he's 11-0, has never really beaten anyone that good, but he is a good fighter, and he is a very good wrestler. And we've seen Mousasi in the past before. I actually asked him about it before the Vanderford fight, when I was in the same room as him above in Dublin, where he's lost to, you know, was it, I don't know if it was, he lost to Mohamed Lawal, and he lost to a couple of other Rafael Lavado Jr., obviously Jacare as well. But look, those are sparse, and those are few and far between. But if Eblen can get him down, can get on top of him, there is a path to victory for him there, and we might be seeing a new champion, but I don't think we will. Alright, that is it from me for this week's Bellator preview. It's a pretty good card. Love those bantamweight fights. Be interesting test for Zingano. You have the up-and-comers on the undercard, and you have Gegard Mousasi defending his title in the main event. I am Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.